everyone. It's Tracy coming to you live from New Hampshire Writers Project headquarters. And I am here today with Jennifer Militello, who is our current New Hampshire Poet Laureate. How are you, Jennifer? It's nice to see you.
I'm doing really well, Tracy. Thanks so much for having me today.
I am glad you could join me because I'm really excited to have people learn a little bit more about you if they're not familiar with you, as well as learn a little bit about the workshop that you will be offering at the upcoming 603 Writers Conference on June 14th. And just as a preview for anybody who is not aware, members, this is the last day for the early bird deadline. So we'll be sending out an announcement today too to remind you, but if you want a little bit of a savings on the conference ticket, today's the last day to grab it. So Jen, let's jump right into it in case there's anybody who's not familiar with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be the New Hampshire Poet Laureate and how do you hope to use that to impact the literary community?
Yeah, so the Poet Laureate position is a really exciting position. It's been around for quite a while, since the 60s, and a lot of incredible poets have been in this role. For me, it really means being someone who promotes the visibility and the kind of health of poetry in the state. So just being a person who's here to do events or do workshops or share my perspective of poetry. But also one thing that feels really important to me is connecting with young people around poetry. So I've been to a lot of high schools, middle schools. So really it just means being very busy, being a visible poet. A lot of times when I'm at events, especially with young people, they've never met a poet before. So I get to be the person who says, yes, there are living poets and you too can write poems. And I think really my task, my couple of tasks are to say yes to as much as I can, to be available, to be present, but also just to remind people that poetry is about them, that poets are writing poems to reach out to them so that they can connect through their own experiences, and also that people can write their own poems. Anyone can write a poem. So it's available. It's here for you.
I love that. I love the connection to the community and to younger writers and creative people. I think that's fantastic. And I know, Jennifer, that your poetry and prose have also appeared in some of the most prestigious journals and anthologies. So I'm curious what first drew you to writing and specifically poetry?
This is a question that I get a lot. And I think one of the nice things about being able to answer it is that it gives a sense that these things happen. They're sort of like happy accidents, right? The things that we find and discover. For me, I tell people that my love of poetry was discovered through boredom. So I was at a holiday gathering with my family in Brooklyn, in New York City, at my grandparents' apartment. And I was about 10 years old, and the adults were spending a lot of time talking over coffee, right? So for hours, I was sitting there, wanted to go home, really bored. And eventually I had to entertain myself. So my grandparents had this kind of back bedroom. So I sort of wandered back looking to see what was there, what I could do. And they had two books in that room. And the two books were the selected poems of Emily Dickinson and the selected poems of Edgar Allan Poe. And my grandparents were not readers. So to this day, I do not know why those books were back there, but I dipped into them. And especially the Emily Dickinson opened a whole new world for me. I was like, what is this immediate, emotional, intense, intriguing group of words? And also, so many of them were about the natural world, were about things like, fear of death. So all of this intense stuff that I was already feeling. And they made me feel really like that connection, right? Like someone else is feeling this, someone else is thinking this. So every time I then went to my grandparents' apartment, I would sneak back and find those books and read them aloud to myself and look at them. And then as I started to realize what poetry was, I thought, well, I can also write poems. I can do this too. So it was from a very young age. It was a very happy accident. Later on in life, my grandparents were like, "Why do you even do this strange thing that you do?" And I was like, "This is it." It's just I was hooked immediately. So, and I consider myself really, really fortunate that I stumbled on those books at that age.
I can actually picture you kind of in that moment because my favorite poet when I was growing up was Shel Silverstein. And I would take the books and I would escape into a little corner of the house and read his rhythms, his rhymes. I just absolutely loved it. It was very appropriate for what I was going through in life with school and things like that. And I just loved his poetry. So I can just picture you in this little nook in your house
And that
enjoying his
little
books.
beautiful secret, right? That you then
Exactly.
have. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Well, we are very fortunate to have you teaching this year because I know that you've taught at many institutions like Brown, RISD, and now New England College's MFA program. And so I'm curious, how has teaching shaped your perspective on writing?
Teaching is such a kind of lucky thing to be able to do. One of the things that I feel teaching really does is it keeps me in that living stream of the conversation of literature, right? Because I constantly am finding new work to inspire my students, new ideas, new writing exercises, new ways to kind of think about practice so that I can kind of engage them in these ways. And every one of my students is an individual writer. They are developing an individual style. So it really keeps me nimble in terms of my thinking about who would be good influences for this person? Who are we reading? Who are we thinking about? And how are we thinking about the actual practice, right? So both that sense of kind of here are some writers that you can experience that will help you write, but also what exercises are you doing? What directions can you go in? One of my favorite things to say to students, if they have, for example, a really abstract poem, is you need to put a train, an onion, and a coffee cup in this poem. And so then they sort of head in this very concrete direction. So just thinking about those things constantly, and then remembering that my own work is also constantly evolving. Just kind of such a lucky pairing.
Yeah, agreed. And so I know that we're very fortunate to have at the 603 Writers Conference the workshop that you're offering, which is entitled The Goddess Poem Harnessing the Supernatural. And so I'm wondering if you can give us a sneak peek at what participants can expect from this experience.
Yeah, so I love that the theme of the conference this year is resourceful women. And I think about the fact that all writing is kind of drawn from resourcefulness or power, thinking about what empowers you or how you can sort of sort through things that give you the kind of strength within yourself or in the world to sort of move with confidence. And so what we'll be doing, some really exciting things. I love these kinds of generative workshops. They take a writer out of their familiar space, and they lead to always a new place, new ideas. So we will be reading some poems by powerful women and women identifying writers about powerful women. But then we'll really be looking at the practical ways that these writers create this kind of or harness this kind of interior power. So incantation, voice, inner strength, direct address. So we'll talk about those things. And then, word choice, language structure. And then we will do a writing exercise, which I'm going to keep a secret for now because it's going to be really exciting to kind of do this writing together. But that will really bring every writer in this room out of their familiar comfort zone and give them a new space to write from, new ideas, new inspiration, new practices. So it's really exciting. Generative workshops are one of my favorite things to both participate in and to conduct.
Well, and I love that you push people out of their comfort zone because I feel that's so important with writing to push the boundaries, and that's what our workshops are about too. It's not about coming and being comfortable and just sitting there and learning a few new things. It's really, pushing and exploring and meeting new people and getting a little edgy. So I love that you said that. And I love that you're including that with your workshop. I think that's really important. And so I know you've presented at the 603 Writers Conference in the past, and I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit to people who might be on the fence thinking, do I want to invest in this? It's a little more money than I was thinking. Could you talk a little bit about that investment for writers?
Yeah, so this conference is one of the great literary institutions of the state. It is an incredible day. How often do we get a day to dedicate to writing and to be with other writers in these same hallways, in these same rooms? I will just say I have been going to this conference as both a participant and then in later years as a conference kind of workshop leader for decades, literally for decades. And I will say, when I walk into that space in the morning to get my coffee and my pastry or whatever's being served, it is just a magical moment. The energy in that room when we first walk in is so magical, so energized, and it continues throughout the day. You meet people you would never meet otherwise. You get introduced to writers you would never, both on the page and in person, that you would never get introduced to otherwise. And I think every single person, myself included, walks away with excitement, inspiration, renewal. A day like this, it lasts, and it's this kind of work that lasts for months going out. And I will say also that people contact me after generative workshops like this saying the poem I wrote in your workshop just got published, or the poem I wrote in your workshop I just finished it up. So I hope and I think writers in my workshop will walk away with a poem or be very much on the path to a poem and then to their next work as well. And that's all of that combined. Huge gift. And the food is great too.
Yeah, I'm glad you started with that. I was thinking Masherie puts a whole lineup of great stuff for breakfast, for lunch, for the pitch party. Oh yeah, you will definitely not walk away hungry, that's for sure. Well, Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on now that people might keep an eye out for if they go to your website?
Yeah, so I have actually a new book coming out at the beginning of 2026. It is a hybrid book that deals, actually, speaking of resourceful women, it deals with Anna Morandi Manzolini, who was an 18th century Italian artist and anatomist. And she worked in a partnership with her husband, but then her husband suffered from depression and eventually died. And she found herself unable to support herself because as a woman, she was not given the same pay, though she was the more accomplished partner
Mm.
in this partnership. So there are prose poems. There's like a thread of fiction throughout. A really great book for people who love science or who love the kind of anatomy of the body, but also a really kind of woman-centered book that I'm just thinking, just kind of realizing, kind of perfect for the conference theme. So
Wonderful. Well, congratulations. And if you are interested in learning more about Jennifer, please go to jennifermilitello.com to find out all that good information. And if you want to learn more about her workshop at the 603 Writers Conference, go to nhwritersproject.org and look for the banners and branded information about the conference to get all the good details. Well, thank you very much for being with me today, Jennifer. I appreciate your time. Thank you to everyone for watching. And if you have any questions at all, you can tag us here in this video, or you can go to our website and contact us that way, and we'll get you the answers you need. So have a great day, and thanks for joining us.
thanks. Bye-bye.